The rain fell like a curtain over Portland, Oregon, blurring the city lights into smears of neon and gray. Ezra Callahan stood under the awning of a dive bar, his breath fogging in the chill, watching his life unravel in the reflection of a puddle. His brother's lawyer had just called Mark was dead. Car accident on I-84. And now Ezra was the only family left for Mark's 16-year-old son, Liam. Ezra hadn't seen Mark in a decade, not since the fight that fractured their family. Mark, the golden boy, had always been the one their parents adored, athletic, charming, destined for greatness. Ezra. He was the quiet one, the artist who'd fled to Seattle to escape their small-town judgment, to hide who he really was. The idea of raising Liam, a kid he barely knew, felt like a prison sentence. He'd said no to the lawyer, voice firm, heart cold. He wasn't built for this. He couldn't be a father. But then the lawyer mentioned the journal. Liam's got something of Mark's, she'd said. He won't let it go. Says it's all he has left. That detail gnawed at Ezra, a splinter in his resolve. He knew what it was like to cling to something, a secret, a truth that defined you. Against his better judgment, he drove the 3 hours back to Portland, to the foster home where Liam was staying, telling himself he'd just check on the kid and leave. The foster home was a tired Victorian on the edge of the city, paint peeling like old skin. Liam sat on the porch, a lanky figure in a hoodie, his dark hair falling over eyes that didn't meet Ezra's. The journal was in his hands, leather-bound, edges frayed. Your Uncle Ezra. Liam's voice was flat, testing. Yeah, Ezra said, shoving his hands in his jacket pockets. I'm not here to stay. Liam's gaze flicked up, sharp and guarded. Didn't ask you to. The air between them crackled with distrust. Ezra wanted to walk away, to let the state handle Liam. But something in the boy's defiance, the way he gripped that journal like a lifeline, stopped him. It was too familiar. Ezra had been that kid once, hiding a part of himself he couldn't name, terrified of what it meant. Inside, the foster mom, a kind but exhausted woman named Clara, handed Ezra a cup of weak coffee. He's a good kid, she said. Quiet, but good. Doesn't talk much about his dad. Or anything, really. She hesitated. Mark left a letter for you. It's with Liam's things. Ezra's stomach twisted. A letter. Mark hadn't reached out in years. Not since their last fight, when Mark had called Ezra's life a choice and walked away. What could he possibly have to say now? Liam was in his room, a cramped space with a single bed and a backpack spilling clothes. The journal lay on the pillow, a silent sentinel. Ezra knocked, feeling like an intruder. Can we talk? Liam shrugged, not looking up from his phone. What's there to say? You don't want me. I get it. Ezra flinched. It's not that simple. It is. Liam shot back. You're just like Dad. He didn't want me either. The words hit like a punch. Ezra wanted to argue, to say he wasn't like Mark. But the truth was messier. He sat on the edge of the bed, the letter from Mark burning a hole in his pocket. What's in the journal? He asked, nodding toward it. Liam's hand moved protectively over the cover. None of your business. Ezra leaned forward, voice low. I used to keep one, too. When I was your age. Had a lot I couldn't say out loud. Liam's eyes met his for the first time, a flicker of curiosity breaking through the wall. But he didn't respond. Instead, he grabbed the journal and shoved it into his backpack. "I'm fine here," he said. "You can go." Ezra stood, frustration coiling in his chest. He wanted to leave, to wash his hands of this kid and the ghosts of his brother. But as he reached the door, he saw the letter peeking out of Liam's bag, unopened, addressed to him in Mark's jagged handwriting. He didn't know why, but he took it. Back in his truck, Ezra tore open the envelope. Mark's words were scrawled in haste, dated a week before the accident. "Ezra, I screwed up. With you, with Liam, with everything. I know you hate me, but he's got no one else. He's like you more than you know. Please, don't let him face this alone." Ezra's hands shook. "Like you?" What did that mean? He thought of Liam's guarded eyes, the journal, the weight of unspoken truths. He'd spent his life running from his own secret, burying it under paint and canvas in Seattle. Was Liam carrying the same burden? He didn't go back to Seattle that night. Instead, he checked into a cheap motel, the letter crumpled in his fist. He didn't know if he could raise Liam, but he couldn't walk away, not yet. Not until he understood what Mark meant, and what Liam was hiding. The next morning, Ezra returned to the foster home. Liam was in the backyard, sketching in the journal under a sagging oak tree. Ezra watched from a distance, the boy's pencil moving with a quiet intensity Ezra recognized. It was the same focus he'd once poured into his own art, a way to silence the noise of a world that didn't understand. "Liam," Ezra called, stepping closer. "I'm not leaving today. Thought maybe we could talk. About your dad. About whatever you want." Liam didn't look up, but his pencil slowed. "Why do you care now?" Ezra hesitated, then sat on the grass beside him. "Because I think I owe it to you, and maybe to myself." For the first time, Liam didn't push back. He closed the journal, his fingers lingering on the cover. "Dad wrote stuff in here," he said quietly. "Stuff I don't get. About you. About him." Ezra's heart thudded. "Can I see?" Liam shook his head, but his grip on the journal softened. "Not yet." Ezra nodded, respecting the boundary. "Fair enough. But I'm here. Okay. For now." Liam didn't respond, but he didn't tell Ezra to leave either. It was a start of fragile, uncertain one. As the Oregon mist settled around them, Ezra felt the weight of his past and Liam's future colliding, pulling him toward a truth he wasn't sure he was ready to face. The Portland sky hung heavy with clouds, casting a gray pallor over the foster home's backyard. Ezra sat on a rickety picnic bench, watching Liam sketch under the oak tree, the journal a constant companion. He'd spent 3 days coming back, trying to break through the boy's walls. But Liam's silence was a fortress. Each visit ended with Ezra feeling more like an outsider. Yet he kept returning, driven by Mark's letter and a growing sense that Liam's secret was a mirror to his own. Ezra's life in Seattle felt like a distant memory. His studio, filled with half-finished canvases, was a sanctuary where he'd wrestled with his identity as a gay man in a world that hadn't always welcomed him. Coming out at 19 had cost him his family's approval, Mark included. Their last fight replayed in Ezra's mind, Mark's face, twisted with discomfort, saying, "You don't have to live like this, Izzy. It's not who you are." Ezra had left that night, vowing never to look back. Now, sitting here, he wondered if Mark's letter was an apology or a plea. Liam's pencil scratched against the journal, the sound sharp in the quiet. Ezra approached, cautious. "You're good," he said, nodding at the sketch of cityscape, jagged and raw, like Portland itself. "Ever think about art school?" Liam snorted, not looking up. "Yeah, right. That's for rich kids." Ezra bristled but kept his tone light. "I wasn't rich. Got a scholarship. You could, too." Liam's pencil stopped. "Why are you here, man? You don't even know me." Ezra leaned against the tree, choosing his words carefully. "I didn't want to come. Honestly, I told them no. But your dad, he said something in his letter. About you being like me." Liam's eyes flicked up, wary. "What's that supposed to mean?" "I don't know yet," Ezra admitted. "But I'm trying to figure it out." Liam closed the journal, his knuckles white. "Dad didn't get me. He never did. You're his brother. So why would you?" The accusation stung, but Ezra saw the pain behind it. "Maybe I'm not like him. Maybe I get things he didn't." Liam's gaze lingered, searching, but he didn't respond. Instead, he stood and walked inside, leaving Ezra with the echo of his words. Clara, the foster mom, peered at the back door, holding a tray of lemonade. "He's tough," she said, setting it down. "But he's been through a lot. Mark wasn't around much, even before the accident." Ezra took a glass, the cold biting his palm. What was Mark like with him? Clara sighed. "Distant. Always working." Liam practically raised himself. "That journal. It's all he's got of his dad. Won't let anyone touch it." Ezra nodded, his mind turning to the letter in his truck. He hadn't told Liam about it yet, unsure if it would help or hurt. That night, alone in his motel room, he read it again, searching for clues. "He's like you more than you know." The words haunted him. Was it just grief talking? Or did Mark know something about Liam that Ezra was only beginning to suspect? The next day, Ezra took a chance. He showed up with a sketchpad and pencils, setting them on the picnic table. "Thought you might want to try something new," he said when Liam appeared. "No pressure." Liam eyed the supplies, then sat, flipping open the sketchpad. "You're not giving up, are you?" "Nope," Ezra said, a half-smile breaking through. "I'm stubborn like that." For an hour, they sketched in silence, the only sound the rustle of leaves and the scratch of pencils. Liam's lines were bold, chaotic, but there was a spark of talent Ezra couldn't ignore. When Liam finally spoke, his voice was softer. "Dad hated my drawings. Said they were a waste of time." Ezra's chest tightened. He was wrong. Art's not a waste. It's how you survive. Liam looked at him, a question in his eyes, but he didn't ask it. Instead, he turned back to the sketchpad, drawing a figureea boy, maybe himself, standing alone in a storm. Ezra wanted to ask about it, about the journal, about everything, but he held back. Trust, he knew, was earned slowly. That evening, Clara pulled Ezra aside. "There's a hearing next week," she said. "They're deciding where Liam goes permanently. If you don't step up, he'll stay in foster care until he ages out. The weight of her words settled like lead. Ezra thought of his own teenage years, the loneliness of hiding who he was, the fear of being found out. Could he let Liam face that alone? But taking him in meant uprooting his life, confronting his past, and maybe facing a truth about Liam that would force Ezra to relive his own. As he drove back to the motel, the rain started again, blurring the road. He thought of Liam's sketch, the boy in the storm, and wondered if it was a cry for help or a warning. He didn't have answers, but for the first time, he felt the pull to stay, to fight for a kid who might be carrying the same secret Ezra had buried for years. The hearing loomed like a storm cloud, 5 days away, and Ezra felt the pressure building. He'd spent another morning with Liam, this time at a Portland diner, where the boy picked at his pancakes and answered in monosyllables. Ezra tried to keep the conversation light: art, music, anything, but Liam's walls were back up, higher than ever. The journal stayed tucked in his jacket, a silent barrier between them. Back at the foster home, Ezra caught Liam in the backyard again, sketching under the oak. The boy's focus was intense, his pencil carving out a scene of two figures standing apart, one reaching out, the other turning away. Ezra recognized the emotion in it: loss, longing, fear. It was like looking at his own work from years ago, when he'd poured his confusion about his identity into every stroke. "Liam," Ezra said, sitting beside him, "I need to know what's in that journal. It's important." Liam's hand froze mid-stroke. "Why? So you can judge me like Dad did?" Ezra shook his head. "I'm not him. Whatever's in there, I'm not here to make you feel small." Liam's jaw tightened, and for a moment, Ezra thought he'd shut down again. But then Liam flipped open the journal, revealing a page of tight, frantic handwriting, not his, but Mark's. "He wrote about you," Liam said, voice low. "Said he messed up. Said he wished he'd been better to you." Ezra's breath caught. He leaned closer, scanning the words. Mark's writing was raw, confessional. I pushed Ezra away because I didn't understand. I see it now, in Liam. He's scared, like you were. I failed you both. Ezra's eyes stung. Mark had known, or at least suspected, that Liam was grappling with his identity, just as Ezra had. "Did you read this?" Ezra asked, voice thick. Liam nodded, eyes on the ground. "Yeah. But I don't get it." "What's he mean?" "Like you." Ezra hesitated. This was the moment, the edge of a truth he'd avoided for years. "When I was your age," he began, "I had a secret. Something I didn't tell anyone, not even Mark. I was different, and I was terrified of what it meant." Liam's gaze snapped up, sharp and searching. "Different how?" Ezra took a breath, the words heavy but necessary. "I'm gay, Liam. I didn't come out until I was 19. And when I did, your dad didn't take it well. Neither did our parents. I left because I had to." The silence that followed was deafening. Liam's face was unreadable, but his hands trembled slightly, clutching the journal. "You think I'm like that?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Ezra said honestly. "But I think you're hiding something. And I know what it's like to carry that weight alone." Liam looked away, his expression a mix of fear and defiance. "I'm not. I don't know what I am." he said finally. Dad found out I was talking to this guy, Alex, from school. He freaked out. Said I was confused, that I needed to fix it. That's why he was never around. Ezra's heart sank. He could see it now: Mark's rejection, Liam's isolation, the journal as a lifeline to a father who didn't understand. I'm sorry, Ezra said. You didn't deserve that. Liam shrugged, but his eyes were wet. Doesn't matter now. He's gone. It matters, Ezra said firmly. You're still here. And I'm not going anywhere until we figure this out together. The rest of the day passed in a fragile truce. Liam showed Ezra more of the journal: Mark's regrets, his fears for Liam, his guilt over Ezra. Each page was a knife, cutting through years of distance. Ezra shared stories of his own: his first crush, the fear of being found out, the freedom of finally living openly in Seattle. Liam listened, quiet but attentive, and for the first time, Ezra felt a connection forming, thin but real. That night, Ezra called his friend Maya, a social worker in Seattle who'd helped him navigate his own coming out. I don't know if I can do this, he admitted. He's hurting, and I'm not sure I'm the one to fix it. You don't have to fix him, Maya said. Just be there. That's what he needs. Ezra hung up, staring at the motel ceiling. The hearing was coming, and he had to decide: walk away, or step up for a kid who was more like him than he'd ever expected. He thought of Liam's sketches, the journal, the way he'd said, I don't know what I am. Ezra had been there once, lost in that same storm. Maybe he could guide Liam through it. The next morning, he found Liam at the diner, waiting. You're late, Liam said, but there was a ghost of a smile. Traffic, Ezra lied, sliding into the booth. You order yet? Liam shook his head. Was waiting for you. It was small, but it was something. As they ate, Ezra felt the weight of the hearing pressing closer, and with it, the question of whether he could be the family Liam needed or if he'd fail, just like Mark. The diner became their ritual, a neutral ground where Ezra and Liam could talk without the weight of the foster home or the looming hearing. 3 days in, Liam started opening up, his words halting but honest. He spoke of Alex, the boy from school, how their late-night texts had felt like a lifeline until Mark found out and shut it down. He took my phone, Liam said, staring at his coffee. Said I was throwing my life away. Ezra's grip tightened on his mug. He remembered his own father's words. You're choosing this path, Ezra. It's not too late to change. The memory burned, but he pushed it aside. Your dad was wrong, he said. You don't have to be anyone but yourself. Liam's eyes flickered with something: hope, maybe, or doubt. Easy for you to say. You're out. You've got your life together. Ezra laughed, bitter. Together. Kid, I'm a mess. I ran from my problems for years. Still do. Sometimes. Liam looked surprised, then nodded, like he was piecing something together. Dad wrote about that. Said you were brave. I didn't get it then. The words hit Ezra hard. Brave. Mark had called him that. He thought of the journal, the confessions he'd read. Mark had seen his courage, even if he hadn't understood it. Maybe that's why he'd left Liam to him, not out of desperation, but hope. That afternoon, Ezra took Liam to a local art supply store. a cramped shop smelling of paint and charcoal. He bought Liam a set of pens and a new sketchbook, watching the boy's eyes light up. "You don't have to use them," Ezra said. "Just keep creating. It helps." Liam clutched the bag, his voice soft. "Thanks. No one's done this for me before." Back at the foster home, Clara pulled Ezra aside. "The hearing's tomorrow," she said. "Social services needs your decision. If you don't take him, they'll place him somewhere permanent. Might not be local." Ezra's stomach churned. He looked at Liam, sitting on the porch with his new sketchbook, drawing with a focus that shut out the world. Could he uproot his life for this kid? Could he face the ghosts of his past Mark, their parents, the small-town bigotry he'd fled? That night, he sat with Liam in the backyard, the journal open between them. Liam read aloud a passage from Mark. "I saw Liam with that boy, and it scared me. Not because of him, but because I failed you, Ezra. I didn't want to fail him, too." Liam's voice cracked. "Why didn't he just talk to me?" Ezra swallowed hard. He was trying, in his way. He just ran out of time. Liam wiped his eyes, angry. "I didn't want to be like this. I tried to be what he wanted. It didn't work." Ezra reached out, hesitant, then placed a hand on Liam's shoulder. "You don't have to be what anyone wants. Not your dad. Not me. Not anyone. You're enough." Liam looked at him, raw and vulnerable. "What if I'm not?" "You are," Ezra said, voice steady. "And I'll stick around to prove it." The words surprised him as much as they did Liam. He hadn't planned to say them, but they felt right. The hearing was hours away, and for the first time, Ezra wasn't sure he could walk away. The next morning, they stood in a sterile courtroom, Liam in a borrowed button-up, Ezra in his least-worn jacket. The judge, a stern woman with sharp eyes, asked Ezra point-blank, "Mr. Callahan, are you prepared to take custody of Liam?" Ezra glanced at Liam, who was staring at the floor, hands clenched. He thought of Mark's letter, Liam's sketches, the journal's weight. "Yes," he said, the word heavy but certain. "I am." Liam's head snapped up, shock in his eyes. The judge nodded, scheduling a follow-up. And just like that, Ezra was no longer just an uncle. He was a guardian. Outside, Liam stopped him. "Why'd you do it? You didn't have to." Ezra met his gaze. "Because I know what it's like to feel alone. And I'm not letting you go through that." Liam didn't reply, but he didn't look away either. As they walked to the truck, the journal tucked under Liam's arm, Ezra felt the first stirrings of something new: fear. Yes, but also purpose. He didn't know what came next, but he knew they'd face it together. Ezra's Seattle apartment felt too small for two. Liam's belongings, a backpack, a duffel, and the ever-present journal sat in a corner of the spare room, a makeshift space with a futon and a lamp. The first night, Liam barely spoke, retreating to his room after a tense dinner of takeout pizza. Ezra stood in the kitchen, staring at the city skyline, wondering if he'd made a mistake. The next morning, he found Liam sketching at the dining table, the journal open beside him. "You sleep okay?" Ezra asked, pouring coffee. Liam shrugged. "It's weird, being here." "Yeah," Ezra said, sitting across from him. It's weird for me, too. They fell into a rhythm, uneven but functional. Ezra worked from home, painting commissions, while Liam started at a new high school, a progressive place Ezra had chosen for its inclusivity. Liam didn't talk much about school, but Ezra noticed the way he lingered over texts from Alex, the boy from Portland, his thumbs hesitating before replying. One evening, Ezra found Liam on the balcony, staring at the city lights. "You miss him?" Ezra asked, leaning against the railing. Liam tensed. "Who?" "Alex." Liam's silence was answer enough. "Finally," he said. "He's the only one who got me. But Dad said it was wrong, so I stopped talking to him." Ezra's chest ached. "It's not wrong, Liam. You can talk to him. You can be who you are." Liam looked at him, eyes searching. "What if I don't know who that is yet?" "Then you figure it out," Ezra said. "And I'll be here while you do." Liam nodded, pulling out his phone. Later, Ezra overheard him on a call, his voice soft but alive, laughing in a way Ezra hadn't heard before. It was a small victory, but it felt monumental. School wasn't easy. Liam came home one day with a split lip, saying he'd tripped. Ezra didn't buy it. "Who did this?" he demanded. "Some kids," Liam muttered. "They heard about Alex. Called me names." Ezra's blood boiled, but he kept his voice calm. "You don't have to fight alone. Tell me next time." Liam looked skeptical but nodded. Ezra contacted the school, ensuring they addressed the bullying. He also enrolled Liam in an after-school art program, hoping it would give him a safe space. The first day, Liam came back with a sketch of two hands reaching for each other, delicate and raw. "It's for Alex," he said quietly. Ezra smiled. "It's beautiful." That night, Liam showed Ezra more of the journal. Mark's entries grew more desperate toward the end. "I want to fix things with Liam, but I don't know how." "Ezra, you'd know what to say." Ezra closed the journal, his throat tight. He was trying, but was it enough? Weeks passed, and Liam started to settle in. He made a friend at the art program, a non-binary kid named Riley who shared his love of drawing. Ezra watched them sketch together one afternoon, their laughter filling the apartment. It was the first time he'd seen Liam truly at ease. But the past wasn't done with them. A letter arrived from Ezra's parents, still living in their small Oregon town. They'd heard about Liam and wanted to reconnect. Ezra's hands shook as he read it. Reconnect. After they'd disowned him for being gay. He tossed the letter in the trash, but Liam found it. "You gonna call them?" Liam asked, holding the crumpled paper. "No," Ezra said, voice hard. "They don't get to waltz back in now." Liam frowned. "But they're family." "Not the kind we need," Ezra said. He regretted the sharpness when he saw Liam's face fall. "Look, family's what you make it. You, me, Riley, Alex, that's real." Liam didn't reply, but he kept the letter. Ezra wondered if he'd made the right call, cutting off the past so completely. But he couldn't face his parents. Not after everything. Not yet. As winter settled over Seattle, Ezra and Liam found a fragile balance. They cooked together, watched old movies, argued over music. Liam's sketches filled the apartment, vibrant and full of life. But Ezra knew the journal still held secrets, and Liam wasn't ready to share them all. For now, he let it be, trusting that time and love would bring them closer. Winter in Seattle was relentless, rain turning the streets into rivers of silver and gray. Ezra and Liam had settled into a routine, but the journal remained a quiet presence, its pages a bridge to Mark and a barrier between them. Liam was opening up about school, about Alex, but the journal's final entries stayed locked away, a secret he wasn't ready to share. One evening, Ezra found Liam on the balcony, the journal open to a page he hadn't seen. Liam's face was pale, his eyes red. "You okay?" Ezra asked, stepping outside. Liam closed the journal quickly. "Yeah, just stuff Dad wrote." Ezra sat beside him, the cold biting through his jacket. "You don't have to tell me, but I'm here." Liam hesitated, then handed him the journal, open to a page dated days before Mark's accident. The words were shaky. "Liam, I'm sorry I pushed you away. I was scared, but I love you. Be who you are. Ezra will understand." Ezra's vision blurred. Mark had known Liam was struggling with his identity, had seen the truth Ezra was only now uncovering. "He knew," Liam said, voice breaking. "But he never said it to me. Why didn't he say it?" Ezra put an arm around him, the first time he dared. He was trying. He just didn't get the chance. Liam leaned into him, a rare moment of vulnerability. "I thought he hated me for liking Alex." "He didn't," Ezra said. "He was figuring it out, like we all do." That night, Liam called Alex, their conversation lasting hours. Ezra overheard snippets: laughter, confessions, plans to meet when Alex visited Seattle. It was a step, a big one, and Ezra felt a surge of pride. But the journal wasn't done with them. The next day, Liam showed Ezra a letter tucked into the journal's back cover, written in Liam's own hand. "I wrote it to Dad," he said, "after he found out about Alex. I never gave it to him." Ezra read it silently. It was raw, angry, full of love and pain. "I'm not broken, Dad. I just love someone you don't understand. Why can't you see me?" Ezra's heart broke. He'd written letters like that once, to his parents, to Mark, never sent. "You can still talk to him," Ezra said. "Maybe not the way you wanted, but he's still part of you." Liam nodded, tucking the letter back. "Can we do something for him? Like a memorial?" Ezra agreed, and they planned a small ceremony at a park near the Puget Sound. They brought sketches, Liam's and Ezra signed the journal, reading passages aloud under a cedar tree. Liam spoke of his dad, the good and the bad, and Ezra shared stories of their childhood, before the rift. It was healing, but it stirred something in Ezra need to face his own past. The letter from his parents still sat in the trash, a ghost he couldn't ignore. Liam brought it up one night over dinner. "What if they want to know me?" he asked. "They're my grandparents." Ezra's jaw tightened. "They hurt me, Liam. They might hurt you, too." "But what if they've changed?" Liam pressed. "Don't you want to know?" Ezra didn't, but Liam's words lingered. He called Maya, who urged him to at least talk to them. "You're not that scared kid anymore," she said. And Liam deserves to know his family, good or bad. Reluctantly, Ezra agreed to a call. His mother's voice was frail, hesitant, but warm. "We heard about Mark," she said. "And Liam. We'd like to see you both." Ezra's instinct was to hang up, but Liam's hopeful eyes stopped him. "We'll think about it," he said, hanging up. Liam didn't push, but Ezra knew the conversation wasn't over. As spring approached, Liam grew bolder. He came out to Riley, who hugged him fiercely, and reconnected with Alex, their texts now filled with plans for a future visit. Ezra watched him bloom, but the journal still held one final secreta page Liam hadn't shared. Ezra didn't press, but he felt its weight, a truth waiting to be uncovered. Spring brought tentative warmth to Seattle, the cherry blossoms painting the streets in pink. Ezra and Liam had found a rhythm, their days filled with school, art, and late-night talks. Liam was thriving, his sketches more confident, his smiles more frequent. But the journal's final secret loomed, a shadow Ezra couldn't ignore. One evening, Liam came home from the art program, his face alight. "Alex is coming next week," he said, almost shy. "His parents are okay with it. Can he stay here?" Ezra grinned, hiding his nerves. "Of course. We'll make it work." The news shifted something in Liam. He was lighter, but also restless. The journal always closed. That night, he found Ezra in the studio, painting a stormy seascape. "I need to show you something," Liam said, holding the journal. He opened it to the final page, a letter from Mark addressed to both of them. "Ezra, Liam, I am sorry I wasn't the brother or father you deserved. Ezra, I judged you because I was scared, but I see now how strong you are. Liam, I love you, no matter who you love. If I don't make it, promise me you'll take care of each other." Ezra's throat closed. Mark had written this knowing he was running out of time. Liam's eyes were wet. "I didn't want to show you before," he said. "I thought you'd leave if you knew how much Dad wanted this." Ezra pulled him into a hug, fierce and unhesitating. "I'm not leaving. Not ever." The promise settled between them, solid and real. When Alex arrived, a lanky boy with a shy smile, the apartment filled with a new energy. Liam was nervous but happy, introducing Alex to Ezra with a mix of pride and fear. Ezra shook Alex's hand, seeing the way Liam's face lit up. It was like watching himself at 16, discovering love for the first time. The visit was a whirlwind trips to the Space Needle, late-night sketching sessions, laughter that echoed through the apartment. Ezra watched Liam and Alex together, their hands brushing, their smiles unguarded. It was beautiful, but it stirred memories of his own first love, a boy he'd lost to fear and shame. He vowed Liam wouldn't face that. The call with Ezra's parents couldn't be avoided forever. Liam pushed for a visit, and against his better judgment, Ezra agreed. They drove to the small Oregon town, the familiar streets tightening Ezra's chest. His parents' house was unchanged, a time capsule of his childhood. His mother greeted them, her eyes soft but cautious. His father was quieter, his handshake stiff. Dinner was tense, the air thick with unspoken history. Liam, oblivious to the undercurrents, talked about school and Alex, his voice bright. Ezra's mother smiled, but his father's face hardened. "You're letting him go down that path?" he asked Ezra later, When Liam was out of earshot, Ezra's temper flared. It's not a path, Dad. It's who he is. And if you can't accept that, we're done here. His mother intervened, her voice pleading. We're trying, Ezra. We want to be part of your lives. Ezra looked at Liam, laughing with his grandmother over old photos. He wanted to believe they could change, for Liam's sake. We'll see, he said, the words a concession and a challenge. Back in Seattle, Liam and Alex said their goodbyes, promising to stay in touch. Ezra watched them, his heart full. The journal lay on the coffee table, its secrets finally shared. But there was one more step Ezra needed to take for himself. And for Liam, he called his parents, setting boundaries, acceptance, or nothing. They agreed to try, and Ezra felt a weight lift, not forgiveness, but a start. Liam, watching from the couch, smiled. You're not so bad at this family thing, he said. Ezra laughed, ruffling his hair. Neither are you. Summer arrived, and Seattle buzzed with life. Ezra and Liam had transformed the apartment into a home, walls covered with their sketches, the journal now a shared relic rather than a secret. Liam was preparing for his senior year, his confidence growing. He'd come out at school, with Riley and Alex's support, and while not everyone accepted him, he stood taller, unafraid. Ezra, too, was changing. He'd started painting again, not for commissions but for himself. Canvases filled with vibrant scenes of Liam, Alex, and their new family. The art program had offered Liam a scholarship, and Ezra was helping him apply, their evenings spent poring over portfolios. It was a life Ezra hadn't imagined, but one he couldn't imagine losing. The final piece of the journal's puzzle came unexpectedly. Liam found a hidden note tucked in the binding, written in Mark's hand, "To my son and my brother forgive me. Live boldly." Liam read it aloud, his voice steady, and Ezra felt Mark's presence, not as a ghost, but a blessing. They decided to honor Mark one last time. On the anniversary of his death, they drove to the Oregon coast, where Mark had loved to fish. They scattered his ashes into the Pacific, Liam clutching the journal, Ezra holding a sketch they'd made together, a family, whole and healing. Liam spoke, his words simple but powerful. I forgive you, Dad. And I'm gonna be okay. Ezra's parents visited a month later, their first trip to Seattle. It wasn't perfect, his father was still gruff, his mother overly cautious, but they listened when Liam talked about Alex, and they admired Ezra's paintings. It was progress, fragile but real. Ezra didn't need their approval anymore, but he wanted them to see the life he'd built, the family he'd chosen. One night, Liam came to Ezra with a new sketch, a portrait of them, standing together, the journal between them. This is us, he said. Not just Dad's son and brother. Ezra's eyes stung. He pulled Liam into a hug, the kind that said everything words couldn't. Yeah, he said. Us. As summer faded, Liam prepared to visit Alex in Portland, their relationship growing stronger. Ezra watched him pack, the journal now just a book, the secrets no longer a burden. Liam had found his truth, and Ezra had found his purpose, not just as a guardian, but as a brother, a mentor, family. The journey hadn't been easy. Ezra had refused to raise his brother's son, fearing the weight of it, the pain of his past. But Liam's secret, the same one Ezra had carried, had changed everything. It had forced him to face his fears, to build a home where love didn't have to hide. They weren't perfect, but they were enough. As Liam boarded the bus to Portland, waving with a grin, Ezra stood in the sunlight, his heart full. The boy who'd been a stranger was now his family, and together, they'd rewritten their story, one of courage, forgiveness, and love that refused to be silenced.